Hello, welcome back to Talent League. It's the minor division up today. We have quite a few interesting games. The first one that's going to be up is the Battle of the Birds. It's the Firebirds taking on the Blue Jays. And I mean, it should be good fun to see how this one unfolds. Obviously, blue v red, the classic color combination. I'm Golumolu, here to break down this game, to bring a little bit of excitement to the action. Once again, joined by the Xbox extraordinaire, it's Chamberine. Chamberine, how you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. Excited. I'm also offended that you call me an Xbox player, though. I'm a PlayStation player.
Oh, you're the...
I didn't have an Xbox back in the day, but I came from PlayStation, so shots are fired. So
my apologies, because I also felt bad insulting you like that, as we all know PlayStation the superior. All right, let's put this conversation to bed now. We're not going to go down this rabbit hole, but PlayStation over Xbox every day of the week. But the first game of the day, obviously we got quite a few to get through, but starting off here, it will be interesting to see how this first game unfolds, with both teams having a slightly slower start. Blue Jays, the team you want to look at here, had a very strong start to their game on Villa last week, but for letting things really slip away from them, they gave their opponents a massive opportunity to creep back into that game. But to find out what the rest of the staff over at Talent League think, we're going to show you the predictions now and see kind of what the expectation from this matchup is. I mean, you're looking at where this one lies. It's pretty mixed. There's a bit there to say Firebird stand a chance, but the majority, 5 of the 7, leaning towards the Blue Jays to take this game.
Yep, I mean, there is. I'm not too familiar with the teams. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like I say, I'm new. I'm just getting a feel for all the different teams and what's not. I've done most of the games I've done on the major side, so the minor. This is going to be my first. I think it's the first game of the minor one. I think, and it was just a kind of last minute thing as well. So I'm not 100%, up to date with all the teams and stuff, but I'm excited to get into it nonetheless and learn about them and see how we get on. And you said it yourself. This is what. 5 to 7, you said 5 out of 7. You said there.
Yeah. So I think there's clearly a little bit of bias coming in here, maybe, but we will see, right? Blue Jays, as a name, have been around within Talent League for ages. They've often had 2 teams appearing throughout the talents. The team that's representing them this time around. So obviously, they have a bit of that favoritism towards them, in the sense that they're a bit more of a known quantity, but. That all depends on where we see this game go, right? And Firebirds, as the team coming in on the blue side of things, getting to choice of side selection, our map today, Chamberine. We're going to be seeing Chalet up first. And, I mean, that's going to be a little bit of a fun one, right? A very aggressive map. Teams can really take gunfights early on. You're going to see a little bit of excitement early.
Yeah, I mean, no one's surprised to see Chalet. It's very much a best of one map. It's one of the highest picks maps when it comes to that because of the aggression you can get on either side. It's pretty well balanced. It does lean a little bit to the attacking side, so just like you were saying, obviously Firebird starting on that side, so they'll be able to, or not even that, actually, no, look at it, it's actually Blue Jays that start on the attack for this one, so they're going to get the upper hand at least a little bit, so yeah, we'll see how it gets on.
Getting the laptop on 10% battery notification there. Forgot to plug that one in beforehand. So we'll just plug that in before anything else goes awry. But now that that's sorted, we're all back safe and comfortable. It should be good fun to see. And Chalet's a map that I am really excited for as we're kind of just jumping into the game now. I am excited to see what teams bring to the table. The ban phase obviously going to be a little bit interesting. Things like the floras I'd expect to see go away because, I mean, you really don't. I apologize. I apologize for losing my trail of thought in the middle of that, but we might have had a slight incident occur with pressing the leave button from the lobby rather than the begin. We will grab the players back. That just means you get a bit more time to enjoy the company of myself and Chamberine here. I mean, look, Chalet, one of these maps that has become more and more popular, right, Chamberlain? And you're looking at teams expecting to know how to play it. One of these maps that can lean into that attacker-sided, although I think we've started to see that kind of shift a little bit. Defenders becoming a little bit more comfortable with some of the sites that previously weren't deemed quite as common. You see a little bit more of the top floor. You see a lot more of the basement than we did, 9 months ago. And it's fun to see maps change over time and see new things kind of emerge, especially with new operators becoming available to sort of help that out.
Yeah, it really is. I do like seeing new kind of opportunities for maps to become those kind of best of one mainstays. Like we've seen in the past, it was Oregon. It was always Oregon. That's where everybody wanted to go. Obviously, that's where the name Oregon came from because it was just everybody wanted to go there.
Very common.
That was because it was so even. With a rework to Chalet, it changed things, and it also came at a nice time with the change in the meta because the meta, of course, for Siege it's usually been a defender-sided game, and in the recent years, it's started to sway more to being it's swayed quite a bit into the attacking side for a bit. Obviously, with the LMG meta, now that's kind of died off a little bit. It's finding a little bit of balance, and it's nice to see that we have a little change when it comes to the maps and stuff as well. So it's good to kind of see that coming through. It's also nice that we don't have to see Oregon all the time.
Yeah, again, it came through at a pretty interesting time, right? It came in Shadow Legacy with the rework. You had Zero come out then. You had all the new site changes come out around that time. It was quite like a resurgence for the game. You saw a lot of people coming back to it or just doubling down on the investment in the game, and which is really cool to see, but it does go to show. I think Chalet is a brilliant case example of how great it can be for maps to be just chucked into competitive, right? Chalet, it comes out, people are banning it left, right, center. You see people talking about how you never get to play the new map. It goes into comp. We see teams play it at SI. It's massively popular among the teams. People see it getting played. They're like, oh, you know what? This map is actually really cool. Let's keep playing it in ranked. And that's what I really like, especially with a lot of the maps in Siege. You have quite a nice range of diversity in settings. And Chalet is definitely on the extreme end of that, right? And it's nice to have a bit of variation. The fact that you get to see something different kind of emerge is great fun. The band starting off, though, it's Firebirds on the defensive end first, as they were the blue side. They got to choose the side selection, as BLUEJAYS got to kind of pick between the last two remaining maps at the end of that veto. They're going to ban the Dokkaebi away. Pretty interesting, right? You get rid of the logic bombs, one set of those EMPs. But BLUEJAYS, they're going to take away that Flores. And I mentioned it before, I think Flores is someone who you really want banned, especially for just shoring up some of your defensive positions.
Yeah, I mean, the Flores ban is a really strong ban because of the fact that he's the only one that changes the actual type of utility that is required, because if you've got those shield positions and you've got like ADSs, you've got the my magnets, whatever it is you're using to defend it, of course you can throw as many projectiles into that, and then eventually you might burn it, you might not. But a Flores drone, you need to bring a Mozzie or a Mute, you need to specifically put them in the right place at the right time to get them. It's slightly different interaction, and it's always nice because 9 times out of 10 the Flores drone does get through and does eventually deal with it. I've seen them, I think just last week, I don't actually know if it was on Tuesday, but I think someone had dealt with a shield like rapidly quick just when the opening round, when the round first started, and yeah, so it was really quick, really easy for them to get that done, and they didn't even need to worry about burning loads of ADSs and whatnot. Of course, the other bands coming out as well is Ami and Valk. Valk's always been a strong ban, always been a mainstay, and Izami as well. Strong ban. We've seen her prevalence increase over the last kind of couple months since her release, and no one's really surprised that would come out. Obviously, those Kiba barriers are an absolute plague to deal with.
Yeah, I think Izami is she's just so good. I don't know exactly what it is that people still don't just kind of clock it, especially in your ranked games. The amount of times I see this operator unbanned and unpicked in ranked is criminal. The Kiba is so strong, and you just throw it in a doorway, you just do it to inconvenience and block off people. They start to breach things open. You can use it to fill up these holes that aces or Habanas make to, again, just make that site a little bit more comfortable. Especially works great on these ranged hard breach tools where it's like, okay, now you're not standing next to the breach necessarily, right? You think of maps like Villa, when you get that breach opened on up from Study in towards Aviator, you could just chuck a Kiba there, you lock it up again. Now they have to kind of walk into Study, you can swing off the doorway, maybe you have someone top main who's also going to make that a little bit uncomfortable. Looking at something like Chalet, you're looking at a lot of these like half walls or these pillars where you can really dig in tight on these angles and just be so inconvenienced to get away. Like, especially piano, right? You have a deployable shield there. The deployable shield gets taken away. Chuck a Kiba. Just continue to be that annoyance with this just these barricades. You're just building up around yourselves, your little fort, and you just hide away forever. I mean, very fun operator to play just because of the creativity you get to like bring into the game. So annoying to go against though.
Yeah, she's like I say, she's a plague. It's so hard to deal with. The one that comes to mind, the most effective I've seen her is the top floor in cafe and cigar lounge. When people are just throwing them on the tables, the chairs, it's an absolute riot to try and clear out that pixel area just because those barriers just get in the way so often. But I think obviously with Chalet, you mentioned it, just with deployable shield and stuff. A lot of the teams I've seen it used in Chalet is on the bottom floor as well with the snowmobile. You can anything where there is like a half wall opportunity or just some sort of like minor obstruction that you can then turn into its own form of a deployable shield because you just toss the Kiba barrier and make that a bit more of cover. And like I say, it just keeps having to burn utility and waste time, and it's just an annoyance just getting in the faces of the attackers every single time they try to get in. The Valk ban though, I mean, there's not as much to talk about with Valk as what we used to see because, of course, you can't throw the cams outside anymore, which now that you think back to it is an absolutely insane mechanic because you could just hide them literally anywhere. So inside the map, it's still a nightmare to deal with. She's still getting banned. She still has a high ban rate. She still has a high pick rate when she's available because of those cams and how hard and difficult they are to actually spot and deal with and whatnot. So I don't think anyone's surprised at the Valve ban either.
Oh, Chalet was the worst for it as well.
Yeah.
Old Chalet was even more painful when it was just like there were the trees everywhere. You just throw it at a tree and it will just hide. It's like, good luck finding this. It's like the classic like palm trees one on bank where you just throw it really high up in a really awkward spot to look at. Like there are just spots where it's just a pain to try and find or deal with, and they're so hard to spot out a lot of the times, even when they're inside, let alone the fact that you're given so much flexibility outside. That change was that was really nice to see, and it means you can still go for these plays on Valkyrie, right? Like you can throw one out for like a couple seconds of information before a run out or something and try and make that play safe. But yeah, I mean, either way, it's always a little bit of a fun one to see. As we are back into the lobby now, so the bans coming through will have to be the same. It will be the Dokkaebi, the Flores, the Valkyrie, and the Azami.
Yeah, spoiler alert, of course we've already seen the bans, so we are back now and sorted, and we're in the lobby, and I think we're getting ready to go. They'll obviously just have to be the same bans, and just to make sure that everything is the exact same as before we get everything into this game. But I'm excited to go. I'm happy to see that we're now in and ready to get started. And we never really talked much about the Dokkaebi ban. I feel like she kind of flips in and out of being a commonly banned operator. She's banned quite often enough to notice, but sometimes like it's a kind of strange relationship, if you know what I mean. Like she seems a bit more specific than what you would kind of see. Jackal's usually the one that you would see people ban a lot more if they're going for that roam, to stop that roam. But obviously, I think it never does not hurt to get rid of the Dokkaebi anyway.
I'm a big fan of DMRs because it means when I lose gunfights, I can blame it on the fact that I'm using a DMR. It's a nice little excuse for like, oh yeah, but I handicap myself with the gun choice anyway. I think Dokkaebi's in this really interesting position where, especially with the prevalence of like more information tools, bulletproof cameras being run, whereas in the past they were pretty useless. Now they can turn and they have the EMP through them. Being able to hack and just kind of get that information is great. I think the just to hunt down roamers is very useful. Arguably a little bit more useful than the Lion, but I think they run this very interesting line between the two, as Shep instantly grabbing that line to assist. You get the EMPs, you can function yourself as a little budget Thatcher, which again, like, just really helps out the fluidity of attacking lineups. Going to be starting on the defensive end for Firebird though, downstairs in the kitchen and dining, a site which, well, both teams should know pretty well by this point, right? You're going to have that setup above to try and slow down the push. Attackers looking to dislodge as much as possible before going for that plant, probably on the table, unless they go for something particularly quirky and decide to jump on the backside, which, you know what, you can never write anything off, Jamboree, but no. I think it's less likely.
Yeah, it certainly is, and I like seeing the kitchen dining site. I like to see a little bit of range, and the thing about Chalet is I've always felt that it's got 4 sides now with the rework that can be defended, and there is an opportunity to be on either of them. And that means that when you have a starting position, you never really know which site you're going to start from. You know, back in the day, it was always basement. Everybody started basement. That was what happened. And then when the rework happened, it was always master. And now you kind of see a little bit of a blend of all of it, where you kind of see the middle sites, the bar and gaming, you see the kitchen dining. So it's nice that we get to see a middle site. I like seeing the middle sites on maps because it invites a bit more of opportunity from the attack, because they have to come from either above, from below. There's a bit more angles to worry about for the defenders, and a little bit more in terms of the map control that they actually have to put up. So I like seeing that coming out from the early rounds inside this map.
Yeah, Siri rocking the 417 as well. Clearly not a fan of the F2 after the loss of that vertical grip. As the sweep is starting for the Blue Jays, clearing out library, have that control of mezzanine now. You've got to be a little bit careful though. The breach into office has had the head height holes made and prepped, so there is the opportunity for Firebird to take some of these longer angle shots. They got the 1.5 on that Warden, so even if you try and use stuns to clear space for yourself, well, you've got to be a little bit more careful. They are posturing around. The drones should come through for them soon, just to try and relay as much information as possible. As Siri looking to get that shock drone in to catch as much utility as possible. Doesn't spot the ADS, and the drone will out before they can remove it, so it stands a little bit longer. The deployable shield gone. Shep able to get a cheeky little angle and grab himself a double kill from the master window rappel. They just didn't hear it coming over the noise of the frag grenades, and this is the option for Blue Jays to push through the rest of this top floor, trying to hunt down the remaining stragglers of the defense as they're able to get Frost down to 1 HP down off the table. Now the 2 versus 5, a very strong commanding start for them here, Chamberlain, but Loki able to grab at least 1 back.
Yeah, the question is it going to be a consolation, or is it just going to be a complete steamroll for the rest of this round? A minute left on the clock though, another victim to fall towards that Blue Jays side, as Cassie is able to find Crazy now. And we're now in a 1 versus 4 situation. Still a minute on the clock, still plenty of time. The yellow pings come out though, so they have the location at least gathered, and they have the information that where the player is though, and that's the final shot found into the body of the last player remaining alive with Firebirds, and that will be the first round on the board for Blue Jays.
Yeah, Loki's stuck in a little bit of a difficult position there, right? Had to ace to clutch out the round for his team. I think ultimately what came down was that Blue Jays just had a very strong sweep. They started off slowly, they got the utility burned out. Admittedly, they just used a frag grenade to burn the ADS and then frag grenaded it afterwards rather than sort of checking for that, which, you know, would have been a little bit more efficient. But that's beside the point, right? They got the job done. They removed the utility. They pushed in together as a group. Chep on that side rappel, just catching everyone off guard because they just weren't expecting it. They weren't respecting the option available to them. The Blue Jays, when they had that control, were very good at pushing it through. Dent playing that position on the bar from window to cut off some of the retreats, which eventually netted the kill onto slows as well. Just a very strong understanding of how they wanted to attack onto that site, and ultimately Firebird caught off guard a little bit. Losing so many members early on obviously makes it very difficult to do anything else, especially when you lose the space above the site, and we saw what Cassie was able to do with the sledge in tow. That's going to be all the encouragement that Firebird need to go, you know what, Jamboree, we don't want to run it back in dining, we'll go to the other middle floor site. It's going to be bar, and it's going to be billiards. How well do they play this above again? Because right, you saw that attack from Blue Jays. It's starved in library.
Yep, this is the way this map works though, and it's the same as like the likes of Villa. These kind of bigger maps that have the 2 definitive sides on each one where you want to attack from, they just flip between them. So we're going to come from the north side this time. At least they're going to put a couple of players out that side. That's usually how they would clear. Obviously, if they're going to be holding on to library, you're going to want to do the clear through the master side so that you can at least get yourself in a comfortable position where you're in the map, you have control, you can be comfortable in your position where you're kind of located in the middle of that area and cut off any kind of potential flanks. And they do seem to have an idea at least where the Jaeger is, the yellow pins to do, and there's a couple of players just lurking, waiting for the potential to get the down, and the down is found, and the final kill is shot there, and Maxie's dealt with inside of Trophy, and now we are in a 4 versus 5 situation. Very effective roam clear so far. The drones are doing their job. They're finding those yellow pings. They're finding the information that they need, and it's getting fed back to the entry with the kills. And it's looking like a good start so far for the attack side of Blue Jays.
Yeah, once again, just getting these drones in forward positions, having them hidden during the prep phase so that when it comes time to push, when you're looking for these kills, you have the information readily available. And now with the wall and office opened up, gives them the option to start sending flashbangs and frag grenades down towards Stella on the top of Ivy to try and remove this shield, which should clear that corridor just a little bit, make it a bit easier to start pressuring out slows on the balconies, because that's what they want to do. They want to achieve this control above as the flashbangs start to fly through. You should see the grenade get thrown. There we go. The barricade's gone. Forces Stella to back away. Slows looking to get aggressive, trying to punish this aggressive stance from Kazi. Cut off by Siri. Brilliant teamwork from the Blue Jays to make sure that they're covered as they start to progress through. And now they have control of this blue staircase. The drone being dropped down. Just give a little bit of information. Maybe a peek around the corner, but you have to be careful. Stella, he's lurking on the staircase down below. Things will slow down for a quick second here. Loki able to get the kill onto Khan. That's your sledge gone. That's your form of destructibility, right? You can no longer open up as much of that floor chamberine.
Yep, and we are now in 4 versus 3 situation though. Stellar though, still lurking down below, just waiting for any mistake to be made from Siri, who's not aware of the fact that it's so close, but is just going to hold the angle and wait for that swing to come out, but instead just decides to eject himself from the situation into that small cover there. Mudroom, if I remember the call correctly. Inside there, just waiting for any chance to get up into the face of Siri on that staircase, but the AUG is going to find its victim, and does happen on that Ivy staircase, and the rotates came up. Stellar going up towards the top floor, though. Are they aware of the fact they've got aggressive now, but 2 and 3 is the situation now. As Dent, they'll find Stellar on that flank, and all the way down to 1 HP. Loki is eventually dealt with 1 versus 3, though, as Dent now finds that kill, and it's not looking too great. The diffuser is cold now. Crazy little left to do all of the work on his own, but can't quite get the swing out. It's a back and forward as the bullets are peppering in and out of that window, but the drop does come through and Dent the final shot into the body of Crazy, and another round on the board for the attacking side of the Blue Jays.
I don't know why, but crazy.com's giving me like the funky pigeon vibe, like funkpigeon.com. But yeah, I think again, like a very strong start for the Blue Jays, right? They take the control, they have these drones placed in advance for where they want to enter the building. They spot Jaeger running around, able to take Maxi out very early on. That just gives them the freedom, that gives them the space. When Kazi is pushing down the corridor to try and contest onto mezzanine balcony, they're covering them, right? They are playing for each other, and it's showing in these situations where it's very difficult for Firebird, once they lose members, to get in a position to get 3 kills. Yes, Loki was able to get the pick onto Kazi above, on the vert. But since then, not too much movement happens, right? Stella pushes aggressively to get control of Ivy again, but in the meantime, they're just pushing into sight very quickly, and they're able to balance out that man advantage and take space, and more importantly, important space, right? They get control of sight, they get to half wall, they get that plant going down, and it forces these uncomfortable retake positions for the Firebirds. And they aren't really able to find that answer. They aren't able to break through the defensive line of Blue Jays once they set it up.
Yep, Blue Jays are excellent when it comes to the attack. They're getting all that real cohesion when it comes to who's to play where, on what window, who's going to get the pinch, and make sure that that player's covered. So if someone does swing, there's someone immediately available to get them on the cross angle. It's working so well. There was an opportunity there for Firebirds to actually steal that out from underneath Blue Jays. You've seen the flank from Stellar. It just wasn't able to land the shots inside the library. That gunfight goes the other way, and it's a 3 versus 2 situation in their favour, and they have a top 4 advantage. And small things like that, where we can kind of get a tease of what may be to come if Blue Jays do at least concede a little bit of control towards Firebirds, but it doesn't seem like they're going to do that just yet. Of course, they are now starting to sweep through this map. We're going back to Baron Gaming again, same site, so a little bit of a change in terms of the way they're going to do this. They have now got one obviously stationed on that office door, 2 members coming from the solar side, and they don't have that roam game we've seen the last time. We've seen the Jaeger all the way out towards Trophy the last time, and this time they've just conceded that side of the map already, nice and early. They're just going to give the north side to them, and instead they're just going to focus on holding the side after.
Trying to get the wall opened once again. The setup very similar, with Maxi still alive though. You have that Jaeger playing inside a library to make things just a little bit more difficult to get in through the windows. You have that extra layer of security. The drone coming through for Siri will be shot out, but not after getting at least a couple of those magnets, which will make this flashbang job a little bit easier for Sanity as they start to fly through the breach. Crazy getting the kill onto Dent though. On the balcony, that's quite a big deal for them now, as it makes it just a little bit more awkward. You lose one of those sets of nades, the shield goes down without too much hassle. Otherwise, though, dropping one down, gets caught by the ADS, trying to clear that space. Siri's going to be leading, taking point, walking down. Kazi now able to finally get the pick onto Slows as the Frost playing on Mezzanine going down, and Maxi just doesn't want to deal with it, right? He's going to drop away and play below. Crazy going nuts slow down below. Just continuing to cause problems on these vertical breach, which really haven't been working out for the Sledge. Stella doing the same maneuver once again to dismantle this control of blue. This time, not going to take the aggression, not going to push upstairs, recognizing they have this man count advantage and going to fall back into mud just to make things a little bit more awkward. Don't give Blue Jays the free picks at this point, and you can see two players back in the stock, just waiting for these drops to occur as Chep is going to go for it, but Moxie gets himself a nice little double as they both drop down a hatch. There's the first, there's the second, and clean up the round. They finally find their footing on defense here, Chamberlain.
Yep, they finally got it, and there is a key moment in the round that happened, and it was the opening engagement. Now, of course, winning that first engagement is important, and having that man advantage does help. But it was the player that they got. They got the cross angle, and this is what I complimented them in the last round. Their cross angles, they always had players available to refrag. If anyone was going to go for a swing, they had someone on the coverage, and because they lost Diana on the balcony, they lost any presence on that east side. So they didn't have anyone except from the couple of players that were coming from the piano side. So there was no real worry for slows. They did eventually fall, but you know, falling at a minute is different from falling at 2 minutes. So they were able to get that eventually, but that was the key moment that changed things. Because it was that specific player. If it had just been, maybe if it had been one player in piano, because there was two players in piano pushing, if it had just been one of those guys that had fell, and they still had the cross angle from the double window, that would have changed things a little bit, because then the players can't swing as much, they can't get as aggressive. And that's where things changed. And then, of course, it does also help to have Maxi on the actual round. He was picked off of the back of a yellow ping in the round early on before. This time, able to stay on top all the way to the end, enough to get themselves a double kill at the end. So they were able to at least get themselves a full round under their belt. And it worked out well. Firebirds are on the board.
Now the basement comes out, and we can see what is in store here. Sanity grabbing that thermite now, obviously the repick enabling you to have a lot more fluidity, especially in the hard breach department. I think this really led to some interesting discussion, right? You started to see Ace be that sort of generic suit tool. You grab the thermite when you need a big hole, you grab that Habana when you need those hatches. It's quite a nice little sort of group you have going on. They each got their own little vibe. But so far, looking to try and get some pressure above, because they are aware of this roam on the middle floor. You've got the Oryx, especially, who's going to be trying to cause some problems. But Siri, able to get an early pick onto Moxie, also gets the injure onto Slows on the staircase. You can hear the drone being deployed. They should be somewhat aware. Stella looking to try and go for the revive, but the drone's been shot out. He's just going to rappel on in. Stella unable to land the shots required to secure the kill. Means she's going to be forced to back away, give over the freebie onto Slows. Already injured, can't rescue them now. You've got to play the preservation for your own life.
Yep, they just unfortunately couldn't quite get it off in time. The pressure was just way too much. City was hungry to get that kill in through the window, and we're now in a 3 versus 5 situation now. I did say that obviously Maxi did play well, was able to stay on the round for a long time the last time. This time, not so much. Picked off early on, the roam game is shut down. The Oryx will likely make their way back to site to try and support the rest of their teammates that are there. Remember, it is the basement site, so to spot a Roman mute operator up towards that stock area could be a little bit of a glint in the eyes for BLUEJAYS, as they might think, you know what, actually, that's, you know, they're still roaming, they're still getting a little bit aggressive. There's an opportunity to go to that site early and get themselves down there. You can see Shep down on the bottom floor doing just that, and Stellar is down towards blue as well. And then the wall will begin to get opened up towards that wine cellar area. Stellar just holding, waiting for the wall to get opened, and will likely get aggressive and go up to the swing, or play the patience game and wait for someone to come through that breach. Joined by his teammate inside of A, though. We do have Loki. They're just waiting in that bomb, behind that bomb chassis area, just to swing out. They have the double up together, and it looks as though they are going to try and take on these gunfights and try and find them. But look at that! This double swing comes out at the same time, and they're down the put in the mud. And Crazy, with it all to do, Dent though is waiting for them to come down and gets that final shot.
Again, it's just playing the space, slowly pinning Firebird back into sight. They get the breaches opened, like you mentioned, going for these double swings, ensuring that there's some sort of backup policy for them, right? If you lose the first gunfight, there's someone there to make sure that it's a trade. Ends up netting themselves a nice little double. They get that access in and just continue to apply that pressure. BLUEJAYS continuing, despite a round loss in the mix, to have a very dominant attacking half on Chalet, and clearly showing that they understand this map very well. They understand the win conditions for attacking it. And I don't know what the correct response for Firebird here are. They're bringing out the 4th site. This is the only one we haven't seen from them so far, going up towards Master. Is that enough? Do you just change up the site and play it a little bit different? Part of me thinks, do you just try and get aggressive here, Chamberlain, and just try and start taking these gunfights really early on? I don't know what the correct call for them is. Maybe it's just not faltering. Maybe it's standing strong. Give me your thoughts.
I think their mistake is actually getting caught up early on. That's where they went wrong the last couple of times, where you've seen Maxi fallen down early on inside Trophy, twice actually, inside the Trophy. And that's where they're faltering. Whereas the one round that they won, they stuck together, they played as a team. Granted, they gave a little bit more map control than you would like. You always want to try and hold on to as much map control as possible and try and delay these attackers getting into the map. But sometimes it just calls for a standard turtle strategy to get close to the site and just play around each other, make sure you know where everybody is. And that worked for them the last time. They played it all around the library area, all around the bar area, and it worked. This time, though, they are going to spread out a little bit, at least to try and tease some of the map control out towards the attackers now as they get towards library. And of course, with it being switching over to the other side, towards the master side, we're going to see that attack change. It does flip towards the south side, and that's pretty much how it works when this map, depending on which side of the map it's on, you'll attack from library or you'll attack from master side, and that's usually what we see. And we can see them all setting up. They're not actually in the map yet, though, so they're actually taking quite a bit of time. So we're actually 2 minutes on the clock now, and that's the first foot is set inside of library, and it's the foot of the Twitch in the hands of City, who's now moving up towards that piano double door area, and at least just teases it a little bit, but has to go back just to deal with the mute jammer, though. Is spotted by the player at the top of the Ivy staircase, and the red pings come out, though, as they try to hunt down this player, who still remains strong and resilient at the top of that staircase, waiting for the potential swing that does come through the double door, but no one is going to take that bite just yet. It's Crazy, though, finds Chip, and eventually the player is dealt with at the top of the Ivy staircase by the hands of the Sledge. Cassie. Now 3 versus 4, as Maxi's found on the bottom floor now, and Crazy now has to get themselves back to the site to try and support the 2 remaining players that are up on that top floor.
Yeah, the E1D doing a little bit of work to buy some time. Sanity now able to get the main breach opened on up. They have that pathway towards half wall, so they want to try and sneak in for the plant. Stella still standing on piano, though, so a bit of a tight fight around the doorway. The breach in his line of sight as well. So you're going to be a little bit more cautious of the Wamai. No real tools to get this gone efficiently, right? You have some stuns you can try and burn with, and that's exactly what they're going to do. But Stella gets aggressive on the window, takes down Dent. The E1D scan coming through a perfect time to give the opportunity to Kazi. And now it's all down to Loki in the 1 versus 3, trying to send out the C4. It's going to land shy, not go off. And Kazi playing on that doorway, pushes in a little bit, just looking for the angle onto the mute, and the swing just a little bit too wide. Expected him on the other side of the door frame, as one would. But Blue Jays continue to just run away with things.
Yep, it's textbook attacking. It's ticking all the boxes that you need. They're playing the utility well, but the thing that we need to focus on is the way that they're playing around each other. I spoke about the cross angles already, but they're playing off those refrag abilities. You've seen the one player drops to the window, and as soon as that happens, there's immediately pressure on Stellar inside of Piano. They are aware of the fact that the position is there, and they're just going straight through and getting that kill right away. So that is what's been happening time and time again for Blue Jays. They've either got someone on a cross angle, holding together, they're playing off of these refrags, and it's working every single time. They are winning the entry gunfights anyway, so that always helps the situation when your gun skill alone can carry you. But it's the coordination I'm liking from Blue Jays, as well as the drones coming in, the information they're getting. You seen it took them a minute to get that information and kind of get them into a comfortable position where they felt that they could enter the map. As soon as they were in the map, they were in there, and it was straight away. It was quick, it was clean. They were up towards Piano inside. It only took them a minute to get clear all the way up to there, and they were pretty much in the site and on the site immediately, and it was great. It was a great run to watch.
I think the thing that's most interesting to me is that we're not seeing Firebird forcing Blue Jays to fight for space. Right? They have this extended roam. They have a player playing on mezzanine. They have this setup to hold it. But in the end, they kind of fall off of it quite quickly and don't really contest the entrance into library, which is what enables Blue Jays to get this space that they are looking for. I think if you just start to contest them and start to push back a bit, maybe it works a bit better for you. But now we're seeing Blue Jays have to attack once again towards the other side of the building, going over towards Bar and Gaming. And it started off pretty similarly to before, right? Crazy taking a bit of damage, running back to site. Dent also a little bit low, but now they have control of Master. They have control of Office, and they can start to work away at this breach and start to cause some disruption, for which they're going to have in spades this round, as Chep has decided to jump onto our favorite little Candela-wielding operator. It's Ying. And, I mean, this could make things a little bit more spicy.
Certainly could, of course. Everybody knows what the Ying plays usually entail. It's usually toss as many as you possibly can in whatever location you want to commandeer, and just everybody leap in a window and hope for the best, really. And that's usually what happens with the Ying Candelas. You know, sometimes they're used in a more strategic way and used to burn the ADSs and BLUEJAYS, whatever, but it's quite rare that happens usually. It's usually at the sign of some sort of rush. But Shep, though, is going to open up the scoreboard and finds Maxi, who's the first to fall yet again, and usually that does bode not too well for the defenders. It's crazy, though. At least finds one back and finds the life of Dent finally, and that 5 HP not enough to carry them through the rest of this round, though, but slow. Not in a good situation when it comes to the HP as well. 4 versus 3, though. Stellar is able to find Siri. And the BLUEJAYS, though, still have a foothold upstairs in that piano area, and then at least able to get towards the library, because it has been conceded, though. Stellar, though, is able to find himself a double kill this time and find Shep downstairs, and now likely get aggressive, though, or have they learnt their lesson just to hold inside the mud and wait and not actually go for that rotate? And I think that's exactly what they're going to do. But eventually, though, Stellar does get hungry. Up the staircase he goes, though, but the down does come on Cassie through the floorboards, and the C4 goes up, and it will find its mark from Loki, finds Cassie, and the down comes through from Slows onto the final member, and eventually they're able to get some form here. The defenders take themselves another round and bar in gaming.
Well, again, pretty interesting breakdown there, right? You're watching the teams run on in. They're fighting for this control. BLUEJAYS just pushing solo a lot of the times, and Stellar stepping into their element to just win the ones, right? You're looking at Siri walking up without that backing that we have commended BLUEJAYS for doing in previous rounds. Walks up to the staircase, loses the gunfight. Stellar gets away. There's no one there to jump and punish. Then the next gunfight, by themselves, Stellar takes a swing, gets the kill outside of mud. No one there to punish. No one there to grab that kill back. And as things start to slip away, you lose a couple kills here, you lose a couple kills there, that's where things become a little bit uncomfortable. And then you find yourself in a situation like a 4 versus 2, where you're forced to just peek a hatch to look for that kill. And if you come out worse, you lose the round. The side swap coming through now, though. So a chance for the BLUEJAYS after, you know what, you could say that's a successful half, right? 4 and 2, they had some good shows on attack. Firebird can be somewhat satisfied with the recovery they pulled off in some of these rounds, especially with how BLUEJAYS did look a little bit more dominant in some rounds than others. Now it's their turn. What can they bring up to the table on the attack?
Yep, well, I mean, Shelly is still, of course, that attacker map. Does lean, it's not as much as what it used to be. It does lean still towards 568 go to 4-2 split. I am actually surprised to see it go to 4-2 split, in that I thought BLUEJAYS would actually get a little bit more because of how well they were playing those early rounds. But the Baron Gaming side just could not conquer that. And Firebird at least are able to pull something out of what was a pretty poor half from their hand. And I think, though, you can say it was poor, but at the same time, the effectiveness of that roam from BLUEJAYS, the way that they coordinate that was excellent to see. I'm hoping to see the same from Firebird. I'm hoping that they've got something in the bag to at least make the second half interesting, or it is going to be curtains and a quick night for us.
Oryx, Cassie, able to escape there using that Rima dash to dodge the bullets. As the pressure's starting to mount around the library window, still holding tight though onto Mezzanine. You've got Siri in close proximity at the top of Ivy Stairs to give you that crossfire. And this is what we were talking about before, right? With making it difficult for BLUEJAYS to walk in. Now they're doing this exact thing to their opponent. Firebird don't want to walk in. They don't want to be the first step. Finally, Loki going below, looking for that 1v1, gets the kill onto Dent, take down the Solace as well. So a little bit of information denied to the defense, a bit of counter information denied as well. Going to make it a little bit more easy for the drones to continue to operate as the round progresses. Loki now looking to sneak up Ivy Stairs, the kill coming through as Stellar jumps through the window, jumps straight into the pog mat, has to choose between the two and loses the gunfight anyway. And Siri just backing away to bathroom. Happy with the win, take what you can get and fall off.
Yep, I'm quite happy to see that this cat and mouse game has continued into the second half here between Stellar and City. The two of them have just played around that Ivy staircase in circles the full time. They've been up and down and trying to trade blow for blow, and this time it's City that comes out on top with it. But Dent though has fallen, and it's a 4 versus 4 situation, so the defenders won't be too worried as of yet though. Loki getting aggressive into that double door area and towards Piano, but there is a shield to be dealt with and a player as well in that area. Ship holding onto that half wall. Of course, there is one player that has to remain in that area. And then Cassie just holding up the rear in towards Master, and with the final player for the defenders inside of the bathroom.
Slows getting the pick, playing on these windows, just making things a little more awkward as Loki gets the second onto the smoke. Chep also injured, which, well, I was about to say leaves them in the 3 versus 1. Doesn't quite matter as Maxi just storms through the site and finds the final kill as well. So Firebird, once again, showing the attacking side is pretty strong on Chalet, right? You have them setting up in this position. They get that control of Library. They fought for it a little bit. They eventually get it. They force their opponents back. They get open this breach. They know how to punish. They know what to do to create the spaces necessary for them to walk in. Another wonderful display of attack.
Yep, it seems as though this is going to be the tail of this match at least, because attackers seems to be the side to be on tonight. It seems to be like no one seems to want to really be in the defensive side. But then again, they did show Master first, so we haven't seen the Baron Gaming side yet for the defenders of BLUEJAYS yet. That's the only side that's been won so far on the defense. So can they keep up the trend and keep us going through the rest of this map and win it themselves, or will we see something different?
You never know, but I think BLUEJAYS. I personally like this site the most out of all of the sites for defending. I think you get given a decent amount of space to play with above. You can really start to anchor things back with utility, especially when you bring something like a Frost to the table. Sanity will be dropping those Pogbats in very uncomfortable positions on these windows. You're seeing one in Library. Is that all 3 invested on that Library double window? That must be a vertical hole. That's a vertical hole. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that would have been a bold move. I have to say, right? Doubling up under one window is funny. Tripling up, that's like the old school ranked 480p clips that you see, where it's just that's what you'd expect to see from something like that. Instead, they're going to be used on the window below in sight as well, a very popular site to jump through to go for that plant later on if you need to. So I like to see this movement of it. Very standard operate to bring, obviously, but say you play it, you bunker up and you wait for the defense to push through. That's what they're going for. They're going for a little bit more of a horizontal approach, though, from the looks of things.
Yeah, this is exactly the same defense that we've seen from Firebirds when they were on the same site. They went for the same idea. They just hold up. They just went for the defense on the vertical side. They didn't really go for too much of an extension out towards the north side. They didn't really want to give any opportunity to lose people early. Instead, they just stayed towards the site, and that's exactly what BLUEJAYS are doing themselves. And they're just going to allow these attackers to get comfortable in towards Piano, and then they're just going to lie in wait and see, it's very much you come to us and we just hang around and we'll just play some time. It's a minute and 40 seconds, and that's exactly what happens. Dent just finds the shot into the head of Stellar, though, from a nice long angle all the way from Library to the double door there. Knew the player would be coming through there for the swing, finds the shot, and has, of course, the dock, can re-heal themselves should they need it later in the round. But they're pretty decent position as we speak. Sorry, at the top of the Ivy staircase. Has the shield that we always see there, but can it be dealt with eventually? It is dropped, though, but Cassie is able to find Loki, and now it's a 3 versus 5 situation. Firebirds are starting to bleed out the man count, and it's not looking as good as their previous attack, and it looks so Baron Gaming will continue up the trend of being the unbreakable site so far.
Crazy, trying to get some pressure on the mezzanine windows, but you can see this is where it starts to get bottlenecked, right? If you can't push through this corridor, you can get the shield gone, but if you can't walk up safely, and they try to take both angles, Kazi on mezzanine grabs one, Siri still on the staircase grabs a second, and despite Maxi's best efforts to try and make something work below, you still have the Frost lurking around. The Hunter finds their prey, and BLUEJAYS, you said it before, will they keep it as the only defender site to be won? Yes, they will. Yes, they will.
It's a strange theme. It's definitely a strange theme because I wouldn't have pegged it as being the one to be the strongest one. And I think that both teams, right? There was to be a tactical timeout, for instance. Now, for me, alarm bells would be ringing, and it would just be there is one theme that is recurring in every single round, and the defenders only win the site when they don't put out a roam. It's the only time they've won a site. That's it. So for me, if I'm the defender, if I'm the defenders, I'm just staying in sight. I'm just staying nearby. We're going for the standard turtle hold. Let's all just hang around in the site and let the attackers come to us. And that's exactly what I'd be thinking. The attackers should be thinking as well, well, you know what? We could just go directly to site and bypass the roam instead of eating into that roam. Or we can continue to go as what the kind of theme's been going. If there is the roam, we just deal with it because pretty much both sides have effectively dealt with the roam every single time. So it's a bit of a kind of stick or twist situation. Do we just keep going with the same themes, or is somebody going to eventually break the mold and go for something different?
Yeah, it's quite clear to me that Firebird haven't played enough Hearts of Iron, right? Because everyone who's played enough Hearts of Iron knows what do you do at a certain point in a war? You have enough manpower where it does not matter the form, the region, like the regiment loadout. You literally just grab your blob of dudes and walk forwards, and you will just win on attrition alone. And this is kind of what we need to see a little bit more from Firebirds, right? They're in positions where they've opened up the mezzanine window. Why not have someone sit on that window watching in towards mezzanine while you just jam bodies down the corridor? Because that's how you break a chokehold. You just force in these fights with trade potential. So you trade off kills, but you gain space for it. That's what they need to start doing, because that's where they're losing time, that's where they're losing momentum, and it's what's allowing Blue Jays in that defensive round to hold on tight. Already the Fuse getting early work done on Mezzanine Balcony just to try and force players back. As you can see, just a bit of redecorating going on. The hole in the wall makes things a little bit more precarious to jump in through that window now, so you will have to be a little bit cautious. But you still have this Jaeger running around, and they want to hunt him down. The drone's coming through. They got the Lions. They've already invested one scan. So far, they found nothing, and it's on a basement hole.
Yep, and a minute 40 on the clock. Time is a ticking. They need to get a move on and get through this map here because there's still 2 members for Blue Jays out on the roam, and I don't think that they're aware of the fact that the Goyo is in towards that jungle area. And on the 45, the swing does come, so he's able to get the kill onto Maxi this time and opens up the frag potential in this side. This round slows as the second one to fall. Shep finds that one with the echo, and now it's not looking too good for the attacking side of Firebirds here, who just could not deal with that roam. And maybe this is the round to buck the trend, because the roam has been shut down for pretty much both defenses the whole time, and that's the first time we've seen a successful roam, at least so far. Of course, the rest of the round is still to play out. Still a minute left on the clock, and loads of potential for this to go the either way still. However, City is still inside a Baron stock, though. Loki's going to find one, and look at that, just like that, it's a 1, 2, 3 punch. Crazy finds 2, Loki finds 1, and suddenly it's a full swing all the way into Firebird's hands as we see a 3 versus 2 situation now coming out of that. But 2 versus 2 now, as Sanity is able to find Loki, and both the TCSGs were on the board here actually. And now we're looking at Dent just holding on towards Blue, waiting for the player to come down. Stellar though wanting to go for the swing, and it's just trading blow for blow. The bullets are peppering in and out, but can't quite land a shot onto each other yet. Crazy is downed and dealt with now. We've got to have Sanity and Stellar in a 1 versus 2 situation. Those Dent is still there, but somehow it's Stellar. I think there's a trade actually that comes out at the end, and look at that.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is the thing though, right? Is that watching these rounds, okay, they slip away a little bit there in that last one. Okay, they allow a bit of space for Firebird to find space in. They're in a 3 versus 2 after being 5-3 down. That's very, very strong position to be in, right? You can start to just build that back. What happens? They take a 1v1 gunfight. They lose that 1v1 gunfight. Okay. Now things start to look in a 2 versus 2. What happens next? Rather than pushing together, rather than trying to play for that trade or play for that win, right? Where you get yourself in a 1v1 now, instead they're both looking at different parts of the map. And Dent is pinned in that corner. He knows he can't really move out, and there's no move by the Lion to get him out of that position. They're just holding the angle. Which means on the flip side of the map, their teammate coming in, they're by themselves as well. They lose the 1 versus 1, and what happens next? They know exactly where the Lion is. They have Dent in a corner. They just coordinate that swing together. They get the trade. They get the round. They get themselves, more importantly, onto match point now. And this is big for them, right? Last time around, they were, 5-1 up on Villa? They swap that side count. They can't make it work. They end up losing 7-5. This time, they've broken that. They've reached match point. They are 1 round away from securing themselves here. The question is, can Firebird now reform this attack? Big change coming in with Stella grabbing that Ying to try and shift the scales a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that was the first round we've seen where we've seen a really effective roam. That was really well done, to be honest. They wasted a lot of time. Granted, they messed up that kind of middle part, or well, kind of the tail end of that round where they conceded quite a few man count at the end. Eventually, they did win it out just on the actual kind of mistakes that kind of they tend to happen in the last 30 seconds. Where you accidentally end up I'm just going to push this guy and try and win this gunfight. I'm just going to try and take this 1v1 just because I know I don't have time, and that's exactly what happened. It just fell apart there. But the first pick here on this round here is going to be Dent, just to open us up. There's one of the first ones actually inside 2 minutes who finds Maxi, and he's the first one to fall. And if trends are to be followed, it looks as though it could be another round going towards Blue Jays, because every time Maxi falls first, it tends to be the scenario that Blue Jays come out on top. But what I was just going to mention there is that Dent has brought this solace, and I think that has changed things a little bit because they've been able to stop this drone game at least, and at least deal with some of that. Stellar, though, will be dealt with at the top of the staircase. And of course, who's the person that's going to be dealing with them? It's always Siri. The two of them have been back to back every single day and night. They've just been going back and forward, blow for blow. And at this time, it's Siri that comes out the worse for wear for this gunfight. But it's a 4 versus 4 situation now, and no one will be panicking yet. Still, lots of potential for this round, and a minute and a half left to do it.
Yeah, and well, you still got those Pogmats around if you're not careful, right? You got to be a little bit cautious of those windows. The first Candela being dropped in through the piano window, trying to give space for Loki to take forwards, trying to move on in. The ADS is going to reel arm itself, going to catch the fire grenade flying through from Loki, and the smoke grenade being dealt to just try and retake that space. The Candela going to give the opportunity for Stella to run on in, grab himself a double kill so far, but Dent able to shut him down before things get too out of hand. Kazi on the flank up Ivy. This is the big deal breaker in the round. He's been spotted out by a drone, I want to say, and now being forced to go for a different angle of approach. Leaves Dent alone inside of sight, but he's able to get the kill into Crazy. He's tried to push through the breach. Loki taking the forward position on side of Piano. He's just around the corner. They're dancing around this position, but it's Loki who comes out on top, and now Kazi walking to the back staircase. Are they aware? He gets the shots into the back of Slows, but can't find enough to secure the final blow. The two pings coming out. They know the location of the two remaining players, or at least have a very strong indication. You've got to be careful of the window swing, and that's exactly where he's coming. Kazi comes out on top with Slows. Loki on very low HP. One bullet is all that this Oryx needs to clutch up the round for their team. Posturing around half wall, crossing over the doorway, moving towards that rotation. The pre-fire shots giving some form of indication over to Loki, but does he know he's inside of this bathroom, waiting just around the corner from you? Moving over to that diffuser. The timer getting so low. 10 seconds left. 7 seconds now on the clock. The round is over. He has to hunt for the kill. He'll come down on the bottom end of that exchange, and Loki able to hold tight, play that patiently, wait out the clock, win the round.
Yep, we mentioned it briefly a couple of rounds ago. It was pretty much to no effect the last time, but Ying this time being the big effector inside of Piano. It was such unfortunate timing there for Loki. I think it was Loki. I can't remember who was on the smoke off the top of my head, but the smoke babe went out, stopped the player from coming from the double door, but they rotated in behind the Piano because they were using that smoke as their coverage to make that rotation, which does make sense. It's a great move to make because they're not expecting you to peek back out and change your position, and that's exactly what you want. But the Candela came in just as he did that, and it was so unfortunate. The hop in as well. Of course, as soon as a Candela comes through a window, you have to expect someone's coming in right behind it, and the push came through. The Ying got a double kill before they were dealt with, and that just unlocked the round for Firebirds, and they were able to get that one. And it's like I say, what I mentioned earlier. The Yings are usually always followed by a rush. That's usually what happens. And at some point in the round, maybe it's not right at the start, maybe it's halfway through the round, but usually at some point there is an onslaught of Candelas to come in and a push and a shove to come through from some door or window. And this time it was profitable. But look at this though. The thing is, it's match point, and we're going back to a certain site that maybe the attackers are not going to be looking too happy about.
Well, yeah, it's potentially doom just around the corner for Firebirds, as it is, of course. The site that has yet been broken by an attacking lineup, we're back to bar. And now going for their full sweep once again. Starting on that north side, will be making their way all the way across. Are they going to have this horizontal approach once again? Time will tell. Stella once again rocking the Ying, though. And I think I like seeing this back, actually. You know, I think Ying is a criminally underrated underused operator at the lower levels. I think SI was a fantastic showcase for how strong this operator can be. Ying was banned in something crazy like 40% or whatever. Like, not 40%, it was like the most banned attacker, or like the second most banned attacker across the event. And that's for a good reason, right? Those Candelas are so unfair to play against. They changed that, a couple patches ago where you get 4 of them, but they last for half as long. Honestly, that was just a straight buff, in my opinion, because you just get 4 opportunities to blind someone. Someone only needs to be blind for a second and a half to kill them. And now, with this early approach from Maxi, just getting control on the horizontal, you're cutting off access to the lobby, making it a little bit more awkward for anyone on side of mezzanine to fall back and retreat. But the rest of the team still need to get the job done upstairs, as there's very little done so far to dismantle this position on Ivy.
Yep, and you can see the barricade broken there. I think that's where Maxi came in, as they just sweep through the bottom floor, trying to get a creep up that blue staircase. And it looks as though that is exactly what they'll do. You can hear the Candelas singing out, though, on towards that top Ivy staircase. So Siri will likely be on the receiving end of that before someone can deal with the shield, though. 4 versus 5, those Loki is dealt with, and that is Dent to find that shot. And now it's not looking too good for a start for Firebirds. However, they still have that sneak and a push coming through from Maxi down below. But they've decided to rotate to the main staircase instead, and I don't think anyone is aware of the presence of the knock. Of course, they can turn invisible. They can hide themselves from those cams and make sure that they can get through the map without being spotted, and that looks as though they're trying to play off of that. I'd like to see them come to a head here and have Stellar at the focal point of whatever attack they go for, because they have that Ying, and Stellar's been, for lack of a better word, he's been stellar throughout this entire matchup. They've been trading blow for blow. They've been playing. There's a couple of points that's went a bit wrong for them here and there, but they've been one of the main thorns in the side of BLUEJAYS to keep them into the round zone. Stellar now rotates towards the library door, though, but it accidentally, just as I'm complimenting them, does the team kill 2 versus 3 situation now, and it looks as though it's all falling apart here for Firebirds, but there's enough to cling onto the round and enough for them to still be in breathing distance of BLUEJAYS, but someone hits a frost mat. It's Stellar to follow, and Maxi takes a little bit of damage off the back of their own nade, and now Chep is just holding downstairs inside of mud. The players in the mat at the moment. Stellar is still open to being able to pick it up, but are they going to be used as bait, as the sound called there? But there's not enough time on the round. And look at that. BLUEJAYS take it all over for this evening.
It was the curse of Baron Gaming come true, and I mean, ultimately, there's not much more to say, right? The attacks looked really strong until that site. That was the one that no one could quite figure out. And BLUEJAYS, being the team that could make at least one other site work on that basement win, are the team that come out on top. And I mean, tremendous effort. 3 players in the double digits in terms of the kills. Wonderful to see as always. I like to see the change-ups that were made by Firebirds, bringing that Ying. I felt like, again, they just ran into this difficulty with choke points, where the just brute forcing it didn't seem to be something they were willing to try and do. Just shove numbers at a problem until it works. There's a classic saying: if violence doesn't solve your problems, you're probably not using enough of it. And I think Firebirds could maybe take a page from that book.
Yeah, it's the same. The theme that was there the whole time. The choke point, like you said, that point where Piano and the double door is a very hard point in the map. Coming into Piano, it's a little bit easier than coming out at Piano, because you're facing up against that deployable shield. You're facing up against the extra coverage after the shield is gone, which is the Ivy staircase. You can fall back a little bit. You've also got the cross angle coming through from deep in library, and it's an absolute nightmare to face up against. So I can see why the teams just faltered at that. And the only time we've seen I think we've seen it lost maybe once, and I think that was just because there was the roam all the way out towards the other side, and they made that amendment right away, and we're going to hold the site as close as possible next time. And because both teams did exactly that, it was to be expected. And the thing that kind of got to me a little bit was Maxi had the opportunity to change things with the knock, had a chance, came in from the bottom floor, but didn't really do anything. It was almost like they couldn't decide. They went up the west main, then they were like, I'm going to go back to the basement. I'm going to go up. No, I'm going to go main stairs. And then they just stayed at main stairs. And they almost were like a passenger. They were just kind of just sitting there waiting for someone to do anything. And it just never really happened. It never really materialized. And unfortunately, they fall to it. BLUEJAYS take the win. And that is all she wrote for that match.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. There were some nice attempts from both sides, but ultimately BLUEJAYS having that strong start on attack, coming on defense, and having a couple more strong sites, right? And ultimately that was the deal breaker there, is that they just looked a little bit more comfortable at just waiting patiently, pushing for this time, brute forcing things down these chokes, and just being ready to play for trades. Their attacks that they won were really strong, and if we can see them coming back in future weeks, I think BLUEJAYS are you're looking at one of the teams that by the end of minor league will be hanging around the top despite some issues last week. But that is it for the coverage of the first game tonight. We will have plenty more, and we'll be back after a short break. But that is it for both of us for this game. Next game is going to be taken over by Reappearance and Resnus, so make sure they feel welcome when they get back. Show them some love in Twitch chat. We'll catch you soon, though, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy the rest of your evening. We got more games coming right after this.
See ya.